Hey, time to shine today. Podcast squad, it is Scott Ferguson. And freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. That is by my favorite president, probably because I was 8 or 10 at the time when he served, Ronald Reagan. But I have on a gentleman that is close to my heart, a fellow veteran who did 23 years serving this awesome country, the United States. No matter what you're thinking about it right now, the United States is a place that you want to be, because I'll tell you what, I did time in Somalia, I did time overseas, Afghanistan, Iraq, and I'll still take this no matter what's going on in this country. Tommy is a pure patriot. I hope he doesn't mind me calling him that. He's fantastic. He's a screenwriter, producer, author, and award-winning photographer artist. He authored the book and screenplay of his military thriller, Haboob Wind, which I cannot wait to read. And by the way, folks, I'm going to actually buy a couple copies, have them shipped to Tommy. Tommy's going to sign one for me, for my selfish self, but he's also going to sign one for you guys and whoever goes onto our Facebook page after this drops and puts the first comment of how you love the podcast. I'm going to make sure that I send that right out to you. He's a founding member of the Vet Picks Film Productions, an all-veteran independent film production company. His first film, which is in post-production, and it was delayed a little bit by our COVID, but it's called Life After Oblivion, is written and co-produced by Tommy, and his upcoming book is 2 Million Steps, and I am so stoked to bring him on. Tommy, if you could, please come on and introduce yourself to the podcast squad, but first, what is your favorite color and why?
My favorite color is blue.
Nice.
And I don't know why. Maybe that's why I ended up in the Air Force.
There you go. The blue sky, right?
Yeah. I was always, as a kid, I grew up next to an Air Force base, and I always loved that song when they played at midnight. When it seemed like at midnight they would shut down the TV back in the day, and they played that, and then the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember those. At
the end of the.
Yeah, that, or even. Yeah, blue is my favorite color too. Not just I'm wearing it. It's in both of our color wheels, So it's in both of our color wheels, and we get to celebrate a little independence here in a couple days. But Tommy, let's get your origins, man. Where did you start? I told him you spent 23 years in service. Let's start there and then kind of pull it forward to your plethora of talents.
Okay, well, I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, right in the heartland.
Packer fan?
We refer to big time.
Okay. Well, I hate Brett Favre.
My dad. Yeah, right now I do too. My dad was an old time Packer fan, and he was friends with a lot of the Packer greats, and he helped them establish some of their restaurants. So I got to meet him when I was a kid and in high school, and I was like, wow, it's so cool. My dad knows these guys,
Did you meet Nitschke?
Yes, I met him. I met Nitschke. I've got a signed cap from Nitschke. He had a car dealership in town.
Yeah.
And Thornton, Max McGee, a bunch of them I got to meet.
Yeah, Forrest Gregg. It's awesome. The only reason why I say that, I mean, I hate Aaron Rodgers. I hate Brett Favre. And the only reason why I say that, Tommy, is because I'm from Detroit. And we suck. And, it's like Favre killed us. I don't think we even won in Green Bay for 21 years. So, but I actually got to go to 2 games in Green Bay, which is fantastic. I mean, my Lions lost both times, but it was still pretty cool. It's such a cathedral of a stadium. But I digress. So kind of like if you want to move forward a little bit from Wisconsin, that'd be great.
Sure. All right. Yeah, I went into the service when I was 17, right after high school. I went in the Army. Spent a couple years there, and I got out. And I still had a 4-year commitment to the reserves. And at that time, it was 2 years active reserve in either the reserve or the guard, and then 2 more years of inactive. And I went in the guard, and I liked it, so I stayed in the Army Guard for another 10 years. And to get promoted and to go on a career field, I switched to the Air Guard. And I finished my time out there. And the same time I was doing that, I was a firefighter and a medic in the city of Madison. That's where I did my career and retired from the fire department also.
Oh, wow.
And
excellent. So
then I got.
Yeah, so you pulled forward. You were let me ask you, were you journaling during that time or taking notes of things that were going on in your life to pull it forward into what you have going on right now?
I did at the time. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was
Exactly.
always doing that. I
Okay.
was always doing that. I was always photographing. They used to come to me sometimes if both our military reserve unit and others and said, "Hey, do you have any pictures of this event?" Because I always had a camera, so I was always journaling everything. And right now, some of the only pictures we have from my unit are ones that I had taken while we deployed or did things.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I was always kind of doing that. And in 19, trying to think, 95, something like that, I was hurt in a fire and I was disabled.
Mm,
Spent three years in and out of the hospital, and I had to retire after that.
okay.
And one of the therapists, when I was in there, said, you got so much to offer. You should start writing.
Yeah.
I could see you write a book. And so that's kind of what started it. But I got into the more of the photography. It was more of a diversion from everything that was going on, and then I got pretty good at it. And
Okay.
I thought, well, I'm going to be a professional photographer, and I'm tired of freezing in the Midwest. And I said, if I really am going to do this to have a whole new change of life, I'm either going to go to one of the three places where I could really make it work, and one is Chicago and one's New York. And I said, no way. The other was
Right.
the LA area.
Wow.
And so I came here, and I really kind of took off, but it was really a grueling business. It's very grueling. And about 5 years ago, May, when I was on one of the photo assignments I was working on, I re-injured my back and I had to have emergency surgery.
Hmm.
And I almost passed away in the hospital from that.
Man.
And I had a come to Jesus moment, literally, and I want to say an epiphany. And it was like, if you're going to write, this is the time you start writing. He
Okay.
says, and I said, I got to either stay as a photographer, which is really hard, or write. I can't do both. So I started writing. I still photography a little bit, but it's more for pleasure than anything else.
Yeah.
And so I started writing, and I started writing a firefighting book, and I found out I was having too much PTS problems
I
with
feel you.
doing that
Yeah.
because we've seen a lot of bad stuff. So I thought, well, I'm going to write something that's a suspense thriller, but I didn't know what. So while I was recouping, I was watching all the news that was going on with North Korea and the Iran deal with the nuclear development and everything. And I thought, well, maybe I can create a story out of everything that's going on today and spin it into a what if scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And what if this is a master plan to attack the United States and coordinated between all these different organizations? And that's how Haboob Wind was developed. And
Okay.
I created it where the main protagonist, an FBI agent, was also a National Guard member who had served in Iraq, and his good friend there, his interpreter, and they got very close. Turns out to be actually a terrorist,
Gotcha. Well, don't spoil the book too
and
much, Tommy.
no, but that's where it leads into, and it
Okay.
leads into a story like that where you don't know who you can trust,
Uh-huh.
and it goes far deeper than just that.
Sure.
And it's thrilling. It just last week made the number 82, top
Nice.
100 books on Amazon,
Wow.
and projections are by this weekend it might be the number one bestseller.
Wow. Great
So
weekend for it
so
too. Because this will be dropping
yeah.
a little bit after the Independence Day, but this is July 1st of this year. So where did the name Haboob come from?
Well, it's the definition is Islamic origins back from the 1800s. It's
Okay.
a really violent dust storm, and
Okay.
they're similar to what we get in Phoenix here. And I was stuck in one actually 10 years ago. I
Okay.
was coming back home here from Albuquerque,
Hmm.
and I got hit in one, and I never knew what it was. And then I studied it in Haboob Wind, and I thought, that'd be a good name for a book
Yeah, it
someday.
is. It's
And then
funny you
I
said
then I
that.
used it as
Yeah.
and then I used it as a metaphor for a dark cloud going over the country.
Oh wow, that's fantastic. It's funny you said now it rings a bell because I got caught in one of those in Abu Dhabi, and where everything just came to a standstill, and like you had to, it was an aircraft carrier and you had to like, cover all the aircraft. I mean, it was basically like everything was shrink wrap because of what was in the
Right.
air. So okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then so Tommy, like when you became an author, you were starting the book, did writing come easily to you, or was it a lot of rewrites and
No,
setbacks and oh gosh darn it stuff, or what?
no, there's a lot of rewrites. There are a lot of rewrites. I was lucky enough to get into a program out of San Diego. It was through the Us for Warriors Foundation, which I'm now on the board of directors of that, where we help vets and active duty members who need extra assistance. But they had a program called Veterans Publishing, and they had seminars where if you were a vet, they would teach you how to write, teach you how to build a story, build your characters. And I got involved with that, and that's where I really cut my teeth in writing. And I found some people who are best-selling authors who are also military veterans, and they helped me. They
Okay.
helped me a lot. They went through my books um, and made constructive criticism. I
Okay.
like to call it that.
Sure.
And being in the military, don't sugarcoat it code for me. I don't need fluff. Tell me if I screwed up,
Right.
and I'll fix it. And they were, and I appreciate that. And I
Is
learned
that
to
still
get a
around, Tommy?
tougher skin. No, I actually was helping to run it,
Hmm.
and it came to an end about a year ago, and
Oh.
I do miss it.
Hmm.
It was a nonprofit that was just really hard to keep going,
Understood.
and even though there's a lot of interest,
Hmm.
it just wasn't viable.
Sure.
So, but I kind of do that stuff on the side now
Oh
for
wow.
people,
Okay.
and I
I'll
do some
keep that in mind
talks
for some
and I do
veterans.
some speaking.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, so I had, and then I got put in touch with a, a book. They're not a publishing company, but they're a company that gets you ready to go to publishing. I got
Okay.
hooked up with them, and then I had they went through and did all the editing. They had a story editor go through it, did cover design, everything, and they got it ready to be published. Being an independent author, I went and I formed my own publishing company, my own label,
Hmm.
and we published it under that through Ingram,
Okay.
and uh, and so
Good for
that's how
you.
that got going. But it's a process, and I work with all these people now, and they help me, I help them. Um, it's kind of like in the military when you
Yeah.
get involved in this heavily. You'd be surprised how many people you meet from around the country, and you have the same interest, or maybe even know some of the same people.
Yeah.
And I find that in aviation too, working in military aviation. I
Yeah.
know people from all over the place,
All over the place.
and it's a
Absolutely.
small world.
Absolutely, Tommy.
It is a small world.
So, Tommy, you've had like a plethora of accomplishments and whatnot. And what I'd like to do is kind of like, if you remember the movie Back to the Future with Marty McFly, I'd like us to get into that DeLorean, right? And let's go back to the 22-year-old Tommy, and what kind of knowledge nuggets, we like to call them knowledge nuggets here on Time to Shine today. What kind of knowledge nuggets would you drop on the 22-year-old Tommy that help him maybe blast through the learning curve or shorten it at least, and really help him level up?
I've thought about that, and I've made a lot of mistakes. I went down the wrong path. I was corrected. I learned from my mistakes. I remember from some of my senior officers and other people I worked with is you make a mistake, you make it once, you learn from it, you move on. And I don't think I would change anything, because if I changed anything, I would not be the person I am today.
Sure.
And everything that I do now, my writing, artwork, speaking, um, everything is all because of everything I developed over my life, all my experiences. So I wouldn't change. I wouldn't change anything. I mean,
Good.
even the good or bad.
Good for you. Good for you, Tommy. I'm glad to hear that. And I even kind of took a note of that. Make your mistakes once, learn from it, and then press on. I love that. I love that. So we talk a little bit about a lot of it about the dash here at Time to Shine today, and I'm curious to how you want your dash remembered. That little line between the life date and your expiration date, life date and death date. How do you want Tommy's dash to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as a good man that helped people, that believed in his country and his countrymen. I think that's family guy, friend. That's how I want to be
Love it.
remembered.
I love it. And that's a hell of a legacy statement if you really think about it. I mean, it's, you're well liked. People respect you. I even said, hey, I'm having Tommy Anderson on, and a couple of people are like, I know him. So that's like you're well liked, and you do love your country. And I love speaking to people that still love our country, which is fantastic. So yeah,
Well,
you're a good man, loved your country, helped others. That's just fantastic. Thank you so much for saying that. So do you ever?
I couldn't do what I'm doing right now if it wasn't
Right.
for this country.
Sure. Absolutely.
Or
Absolutely.
you.
What's that?
Or you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I couldn't do this. I know firsthand from what I saw. I mean, I was, there's a movie that was made, Black Hawk Down, and I was there, in
Yeah.
Somalia, and I saw how that's ran. And if this was to not be policed in this country, that we would have warlords everywhere. It would be just like that, and you couldn't speak freely like we do here over the air to potentially reach hundreds of thousands of people over time. And
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. And that's what's great about this country. Tommy, do you mentor people?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. I belong to a group, Veterans of Media and Entertainment.
Okay.
We're all vets who are in either in the music or movie or television industry. Um, I do some mentoring there. I do a lot of learning too. I go around through Us for Warriors, and we help young vets, young families. You got some E4 that's got 3 kids and they're having a hard time making it, so we try to help them. San Diego, big Navy base,
It's our
Marine Corps
station. Yeah.
Camp
North
Pendleton,
Island. Hmm.
and so yeah, we do that. We do a lot of mentoring with Us for Warriors. I like to go out and talk to high school kids about writing.
Wow.
If
That's
get
amazing.
out there and write. In fact, starting tomorrow, I'm starting a podcast with a network, IQ Podcast out of San Diego. I got my own show, which will be
Yeah.
it's called Take Back. I with a friend of mine, Tina. She is a singer songwriter from out here, and the purpose of it is to tell people that they have unlimited potential. You can do whatever you want to do, and what's holding you back is yourself.
Love
And
it.
God gives us opportunities, and you just got to be ready to take that opportunity.
Sure.
And nothing's easy,
Right.
but and you might not get rich at it, but sometimes what you get from what you accomplish is more valuable than money.
Love it.
And we want to reverse. We want to take people, especially with PTSD, and tell them, don't let it win. You're in charge.
Sure.
You take charge of your life. Write a story. Write. You can do whatever you want to, and we're going to help, and we're going to find the resources. That was my purpose out of the movie Life After Oblivion.
Sure. Right.
And
Which is in post production now.
it, yeah,
Okay.
it's done. We
Okay.
just got held up.
Yeah.
We did it with the Armed Forces Film Consortium,
Wow.
and which would go into the GI Film Festival. But it's a story about a Marine sniper that comes back from Afghanistan and his PTSD.
Okay.
And I had Tina, my co-host on the podcast. We've been close friends for a long time, and her son had killed himself last October, and he had 7 years in the infantry, and he just couldn't take it. And we had his funeral in October, and I told her we have to do something good out of this. So when I wrote this, I dedicated it to him.
Mm.
And so far, there's 28 men from his unit that have killed since they come back from
Wow.
Afghanistan, and that is
It's unacceptable.
unacceptable.
Yeah, we said at the same time. It is. It's terrible.
I know,
You know.
and so that's part of the reason for she wants to be part of the podcast, is that we can get that message out, here's a
great.
mom, and
Yeah.
didn't see it coming either.
Wow. I'm
So,
sorry to hear that. That's and my little brother took his life in '09, and he did the deed as well. So I can feel their pain with that. So Tommy, when you are starting to mentor somebody, is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
sometimes the reality of how hard something is, because when I talk to like high school kids, I tell them it's not writing or screenwriting, making movies is not like watching a Hallmark movie where all this stuff just falls into place.
Right.
And I said, ask me how hard it is, because
Yes.
everyone's got a story, everybody's got a bestseller in their head, but if you don't know what you're doing and you don't realize how much hard work it is, then you're going to fail. And
Right.
that's the one thing that they don't ask. And if they don't ask it, I bring it up
Yeah.
because they have to know the realities. And for me, and probably you too, Scott, military people usually we accept a challenge.
We do.
And if you want me to get something done, you tell me I can't do it.
Yeah, we'll see about that, right?
and yeah, and maybe that's part of that Midwest stuff.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
I got that from my dad. It's like
Yeah,
no.
gotcha. Hey, Tommy, what's 3 things you can't live without?
3 things I can't live without. Well, I'm going to start out with the freedom that this country gives us. That's
Love
number
it.
one. God,
Mm-hmm.
and my family,
There you go.
but I got to add in that includes my dogs.
There you go. I got my pit bull too. He's right here while I'm talking to you. My rescue dude.
I got my mastiff is sleeping right
Oh,
here.
you got
at
a
my feet.
mastiff. Nice, beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. That's fantastic. So, Tommy, what is your definition of a life well lived?
A life well lived is where you you don't really have any regrets. I think that's a big one for me because I've seen it. I've seen it with my own dad when he passed away. He had regrets,
Mm-hmm.
and I never understood why you just didn't act on that. And that's probably why I do what I do, is because I don't want to be sitting there saying I should have done that. I wish I could have done that. I can say I did it, or at least I tried to do it.
Yeah, I love.
And I think that's probably. I sort of
Love
forgot the
it. No, I
question
love it.
after I got going on that, but
Every day I do something that's kind of weird that I was taught by my mentor. This is years ago. I actually celebrate my own funeral every day. And I'm not saying I'm not going to want to die. I'm just saying that I'm celebrating it because every day I get up and I can't remember a day that has went by. I mean, I have crappy days, but a day when I take that kind of look at it, like today is what matters, period. Not yesterday,
right.
not in the future. Today is what matters. So if this is my last day, then I'm going to make it count. I'm going to have a lot of fun. Now there's days that I wake up with no energy, and sometimes you got to find that hack, for lack of a better term, to get around that. But I wake up every day with a kind of shiny penny mentality where it's the start. It's time to shine today. My coaching clients, we talk about inch by inch, it's a cinch. By the yard, it's hard. We bite off a little bit at a time and just keep chopping away. Kind of like probably what you talk about in your next novel, 2 Million Steps, where it sounds like it's 2 guys that kind of grew up together and went and fought in Wisconsin, that went and fought for the Union Army and whatnot. And there was, we were on our heels. The Union was on the heels a lot. And then, you had people that really stepped up. Like, I don't know, like, who someone I studied was Joshua Chamberlain. Does it ring a bell?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, very much so. In fact, I just was reading. I love reading his exploits.
Yeah, fantastic. You know how I found out about him is the book that I recommend to anybody that's in doldrums. Like, my brother killed himself. The market had crashed. This was 2009. Market crashed. Real estate market had crashed. I was literally, Tommy, living in a house that I had listed as a short sale because they moved to Florida. This is when I was in Michigan. They moved to Florida. I actually
Okay.
lived in their house without them even knowing it. And somebody just said, hey, I think you need to read it. In one of the chapters, Andy Andrews is the author. He's a Christian comedian, fantastic guy, #1 bestseller, he sold millions of books. It's called The Traveler's Gift. And one of the chapters is about the decision Joshua Chamberlain had to make to hold down the left flank in the Great Battle. So I just was wondering if you had heard of them, but it's just, really leveling up, and inch by inch, it's a cinch is what it is. And so 2 million steps, let's kind of briefly go through that and tell us a little bit about what 2 million steps is about.
Well, I wanted to do a story on the Civil War, but I didn't want to make another history book, but I wanted to make it a novel around history,
Sure.
a historic novel per se. And one of the two men in name really is my great grandfather, and he went with this company that was 25th Wisconsin Volunteer Infantry, Company A. And at that time, they were forming companies from communities, and they figured that family and friends would be more cohesive and fight together. And
Sure.
so there was very little information left from my great grandfather outside of I know where he served, I know what he did. His rank was actually a private, but I embellished it to make the storyline because I wanted to be able to create a character that really wasn't him, but I had his name to work with. So I did that, and I created a friend for him, and I had them in battle together, and showing what the life was like for these guys, living in all different types of conditions.
Sure.
It wasn't all fighting, but it was hard times. And the 25th Wisconsin, if I remember right, they were in 7 major campaigns and dozens of skirmishes, and suffered the most losses of all regiments from Wisconsin in the Civil War.
Yeah.
And after Kennesaw Mountain in Atlanta, where they took a beating, General Sherman had them lead off the rest of their attacks through the Carolinas, because the way he put it, paraphrasing right now, and I even wrote about it, is that the ferociousness of the Wisconsin frontiermen, encouraged all the other people into battle.
Yeah.
So you put them at the forefront of and that picture that you had of that you're talking about that I took at Gettysburg, that's a little round top where Chamberlain was.
Right.
That's right on little round top. And I was there 2 years ago. I was doing part of my tour with Haboob Wind, and I decided to spend some time there. It's one of my favorite places to go, and I did a lot of photography in that around there, and that's where I was kind of finishing up my book.
Okay.
What I had done is I had taken 6 weeks, and I had followed the path of the 25th through the Civil War.
Okay.
And I stopped at each place. I photographed. I talked to historians, and I just tried to get as much feel for the book and where these people were. And you say in Michigan, it reminds me of one of the places that they fought at. When I went in there, you could see the cut timbers that the Michigan engineers had cut to make roads for the Wisconsin to go through.
Wow.
It was just, and it was still there. You could still see the chopped down trees, and it was, you were just right there immersed in the history. Yeah, it was amazing.
It's amazing. I'm trying to think of, my father lives in kind of where Alabama meets Tennessee meets Georgia, and it's Cuyahoga. It starts with a C, I forget, but we go through that battlefield every time I visit them. And
Chattanooga?
It's just south of Chattanooga. but it's
Okay.
yeah, it was they say like the third bloodiest battles, but the memorials. So that's my favorite war. I hate to say it like that, but it's my favorite war to study. My favorite time of all history is the Gilded Age because of everything that happened after the Civil War, you know, with commerce and inventions and stuff like that. But the Civil War is my favorite. My father and I are polar opposites, where he's from Alabama, moved to Detroit in the industrial north, worked, and then he moved
Yes.
back down to Alabama. And you know, so when I go there, I hang out with them. We go to Civil War sites all the time. And down there, I'll tell you what, they think it's at halftime. They think the Civil War's at halftime. It's kind of crazy.
I was stationed in Georgia and Alabama for a while, and it was halftime for a lot of them. It was funny.
Yeah,
it was pretty funny.
Tommy, as we wind things down here a little bit, we got to get you through our leveling up lightning round. There's 5 or 6 questions. You and I could talk for 10, 15 minutes in each one of them, but my producer's over on the other screen in 5 seconds. You can answer these really quick, okay? So no explanation.
I understand.
Just the answers, all right, brother? Here we go. What is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Never give up.
Love it. That's perfect. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Attention to detail.
There you go. Love my military. Okay, so not the book you wrote, not the books you've wrote, not the book you're reading now or the flavor of the month, but what's that one book that really stands out to you?
Stephen Ambrose's Band of Brothers.
Yeah, excellent book. Excellent book. Do you text? Do you send text messages?
Unfortunately, I do.
What's your favorite emoji do you use?
Oh wow, I still got to learn how to do that.
I love it. I love it. You're brutal honesty.
I still do the semicolon.
There you go.
The dash, and everybody's coming up with these emojis, and my wife does too. And I sit there going, I have no idea, and I don't really care.
Hey, Tommy, what age physically would you be if you could stay that age the rest of your life?
45.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What's your favorite charity and or organization you like to give your time and or money to?
Us for Warriors Foundation.
Beautiful.
Out of San Diego.
And the last question is, what is the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s?
That's really hard because I love music from classical on up. For me, probably will always be the 60s.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for going through the lightning round. So, Tommy, how can we find you?
Okay, I'm at my website, which has all my links on it, is thetommyanderson.com. Made it nice and simple. Susan made it simple for me.
Yeah, it's a beautiful site. I mean, I have it literally open in front of me right now. So, Tommy, do me a favor and leave the Time to Shine Today squad out there one last knowledge nugget you want them to take with them, internalize, take action on to level up.
All right. Squad, never give up. Adapt and overcome. We can do anything we want to. The only thing that limits us is ourselves. Don't take yourself out of the game because you're the only one that can cancel yourself out.
Love that. All right, squad, you've just been blasted with a masterclass from my good friend and fellow veteran, Tommy Anderson, who will tell you, you know what? It's cool to make mistakes. You want to make mistakes, but make them once, learn, and move on. He wants to be remembered as a good man who loved his country and loved to help others. He look out for his podcast. I know, because I am, the Take Back podcast. So Tommy's going to keep me up to date when that starts to drop. And if you're starting to work with somebody that you respect and you really want to level up your life, ask for the reality of how hard something is. Ask, life's going to punch you in the mouth, as I always like to say, and ask how that mentor maybe pushed through and leveled up and, like he says, adapt and overcome. Live a life of no regrets, never give up, and don't take yourself out of the running. Everything will pass, and you will just continue to move forward and level up. And Tommy, thank you so much. You're so humble, yet you're so driven. You take care of your health. You take care of your wealth. You're my fellow veteran. I love you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on.
You bet, Scott. Thank you, brother.